Chapter 3. Separation of Substances. Introduction. We frequently notice substances being separated from mixtures of materials in our daily lives. Tea leaves are separated from the liquid with a strainer while preparing tea. During harvesting, grain and stalks are separated. To separate the butter, churn milk or curd. To extract the cotton seeds from its fiber, we gin it. It is possible that you consumed salty poha or dalia. Should you have discovered that it had chilies, you might have cautiously removed them prior to consumption. Let's say you are instructed to sort the mangoes and guavas in a basket. How would you respond? Select one kind and put them in an independent container, correct? It seems simple enough, but what happens if the components we wish to separate are not as big as guava or mango? Imagine being handed a glass of sand that has been infused with salt. It would be impossible to imagine extracting salt from this mixture by hand-picking out sand grains. Why do we separate mixtures? Components of a mixture are separated for many reasons. Some of them are as follows. To remove undesirable or harmful substances, example. Before cooking, your mother separates the small stones or husk particles from flour. To obtain a useful substance from a raw material, example. Metals such as gold and silver are obtained in the form of mixtures from the earth's crust and are then separated from it. To separate different useful components of a mixture, example. Cream is separated from milk by churning it. Methods of separation. You notice that different methods are used to separate different mixtures. Components of a mixture can be separated based on their individual properties such as size, weight and behavior towards magnet or solubility in water. From a bag containing cricket balls and tennis balls, you can separate the cricket balls by picking each one with your hands. But you can't use the same method to separate salt from pepper. This is because cricket balls are bigger in size and few in number, so you can easily pick them up. But salt particles are too small and too many to be separated by hand. Let us learn about some methods of separation. Hand picking. Hand picking is a method where components of a mixture are separated with hands. This method is used when the components are big enough to be picked with hands and few in number. For example, hand picking can be used for separating small stones from rice or pulses. This method is also used to pick tea leaves from tea plantations. Threshing. Threshing is used to separate grains from their stalks in the farms. Usually, a stalk of wheat or rice has many grains attached to it, and it is impossible to separate each grain by hand. These stalks are dried and then beaten against a hard surface. The impact breaks the grains from the stalk and husk. Earlier, threshing was done manually by hitting a bunch of stalks against a hard surface. Nowadays, it is done with the help of cattle or with a mechanical thresher. Winnowing. The threshed grains have lots of impurities mixed with them. These include seed coverings and dry leaves which together are known as chaff. These are separated by the method of winnowing. In this method, the farmer takes the mixture of grains and chaff in a winnowing basket and stands on a level higher than the ground. He lets the mixture fall to the ground slowly. The grains, being heavy, fall straight to the ground in a heap. The chaff is lighter and floats in air before falling down as a separate heap. Winnowing is more effective in the presence of slight breeze. Sieving. This method is used when a mixture is solid and contains particles of different sizes. A sieve is a mesh of wires with holes in it through which particles of a particular size can pass. Size of the holes in a sieve can vary, depending upon the size of the particles of a mixture. For example, if we have to separate a mixture of rice and salt, we will pour the mixture in a sieve with very small pore size and shake it. Salt particles will pass through the sieve, but the rice grains will not pass. Sieving is used to separate small stones from wheat and other grains. It is also used at the construction sites to separate pebbles and stones from sand. Sedimentation and decantation. In the activity given on previous page, you actually used two processes, sedimentation and decantation. The process in which the rice settles down to the bottom of the bowl is called sedimentation. It is defined as the process in which heavy solid particles settle down at the bottom of the container in the mixture of a solid and a liquid. The solid that settles down is called the sediment. The process where you throw the water slowly by tilting the bowl is called decantation. It is defined as the process of removing a liquid from the above sediment in a mixture. This liquid which remains over the sediment is called the supernatant liquid. Sometimes small solid particles remain suspended in the solution. For example, in a solution of clay in water, only heavier clay particles settle down. Very fine clay particles do not settle down. To remove them, a lump of alum is suspended into the solution. Alum particles dissolve in water and stick to the clay particles. This makes the clay particles heavy and they settle down. This process is called loading. It is used to clear water in rural areas in the process of purifying it. Similarly, you can separate a mixture of sand and water. Can you now guess which will be the sediment in this mixture? Decantation can also be used to separate a mixture of two immiscible liquids. For example, if there is a mixture of oil and water in a container, oil will form a layer on top of water. It can be separated by decantation. Filtration. Filtration is used to remove an insoluble solid from its mixture with a liquid. You can watch the filtration process when your mother separates tea leaves from the tea using a strainer. A juice vendor separates the juice from the pulp and seeds by filtration. In villages, water from a natural source is filtered through a thin cloth to remove mud and other impurities. The device for filtration can be a fine sieve, a cloth or a filtration paper. The pores on these things are very small so that any liquid can pass through them and the solid remains behind on the filtration paper or cloth. The liquid obtained after filtration is called filtrate, and the solid left behind on the filtration paper is the residue. Evaporation. Till now we have learnt about mixtures which contain insoluble solid in liquid or two immiscible liquids. How to separate mixtures which have a solid dissolved in a liquid. In the above activity, water gradually evaporates, leaving behind salt. You can speed up the process if you heat the salt solution on a low flame. This process of conversion of a liquid into its vapor by keeping it open or heating it, not boiling it, is called evaporation. During evaporation, the particles on the surface of the liquid take up heat from the surroundings and change into vapor. This process continues till the time all liquid is evaporated. Evaporation of water takes place all around us. It is used to obtain salt from seawater. Seawater is stored in large shallow fields and left for days. Gradually all the water evaporates, taking heat from sunlight, and the salt is left behind. This salt is collected and then purified. It is then mixed with some more substances to make it fit for eating. Hence, a soluble solid can be separated from a liquid by evaporation. However, in this method the liquid cannot be recovered. To recover the liquid we have to carry out condensation of the vapors of the liquid. The process of conversion of vapors of a substance into liquid form is called condensation. If you keep a steel lid over a pan of hot water for a minute and then lift it, you will observe water drops on the inner surface of the plate. These are formed by the condensation of water vapor rising up from hot water. Hence, you can separate all the components of the mixture. Solutions. When a substance dissolves in water, it forms a solution. The solution generally contains a solid dissolved is a liquid. The substance that dissolved in water is called solute, and the substance in which the solute is dissolved is called the solvent. In a nutshell, we frequently notice substances being separated from mixtures of materials in our daily lives. Hand-picking is used to separate solid mixtures when one of the components is large in size and less in amount. Threshing is used to separate grains from dried stalks by hitting them on a hard surface. Winnowing is dropping the mixture slowly from a height so that the heavy particles fall down straight, but the lighter particles float in air and fall in a separate heap. Sieving involves passing a mixture through a sieve so that only one component can pass through its pores. The other remains on the sieve. Sedimentation is the settling down of big particles in a mixture of a solid and a liquid. Decantation is removing the liquid above the sediment in a mixture of a solid and a liquid. Filtration is passing the mixture of an insoluble solid and a liquid through a filter. The liquid passes through the filter and the solid remains on the filter. Evaporation means changing of a liquid to its vapor form when kept in an open container. It is used to separate a soluble solid from its mixture in a liquid. The process of conversion of water vapors of a substance into liquid form is called condensation. Saturated solution is a solution in which no more solid can be dissolved at a given temperature.